Hi everyone, my name is Laura Benali. I'm a CPC Prevention Coordinator at PEP, and I'm here to provide a Rx360 training. Before we get started, this training module and the Community Prevention Coalition are funded in part by the Arizona Governor's Office for Youth, Faith, and Family Parents Commission Grant through Portable Practical Educational Preparation. Okay, again, thank you for joining me for Parents Rx360. Today, we're going to focus on an issue of great concern in our community statewide, the intentional misuse by teens of prescription and over-the-counter medications. This is a screenshot from the Arizona Department of Health Services website. They upload opioid data weekly. These statistics are from August 11th, 2022. There have been 1,746 verified opioid overdose events and 372 confirmed opioid deaths. During today's training, I will talk about your role and why it's so important in preventing prescription drug misuse. We'll discuss some of the reasons why kids are misusing prescription drugs, and most importantly, we'll address specific ways you can protect your child. We'll give you tips on how to communicate with your kids, how to safeguard your medications, how to spot medication misuse, and we'll discuss the proper disposal methods of unused or expired medications. Prescription drugs are a real danger to our kids. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, prescription drugs can be as dangerous, addictive, and deadly as the street drugs we're familiar with, like cocaine, crack, and heroin. There's a reason why pharmaceutical companies put all those warning labels on drug bottles. When they're ignored, the user puts themselves at great risk. So what do we mean by just as dangerous as a street drug like heroin? These pain relievers are opioid-based prescriptions. They can have effects on the user's body that are similar to heroin when taken more frequently, in higher doses, or in ways other than prescribed. That's why when we say these prescription drugs are just as deadly as a street drug like heroin, it's because they have effects similar to heroin, and the user can develop a dependency on these medications, suffer from withdrawal, and develop a dependency on these prescription medications. So pain relievers are the most frequently misused Rx drug amongst teens in Arizona. 1 out of 20 eighth graders, or 4.8%, 1 out of 17 10th graders, or 6.2%, 1 out of 14 12th graders, or 6.7%, have taken a prescription pain reliever medication without a doctor's prescription in their lifetime. 1.3% of youth reported misusing medication within the past 30 days. So the bottom line, we have a serious problem that needs to be addressed. Here are some of the percentages of youth using Rx pain relievers here in Pima County. 4.3% of 8th grade students, 7.4% of 10th grade students, and 8.3% of 12th grade students have used a prescription pain reliever without a doctor's prescription. 7.4% of Pima County youth reported using the prescription pain reliever in the last 30 days. And this is why we are so concerned about this public health crisis of prescription painkiller misuse. There's an additional risk today. So the user never knows what they are getting. Heroin can now be mixed with fentanyl, which can be 25 to 40% more times more powerful than heroin. Fentanyl is driving many overdoses, and fentanyl overdoses have been reported in Arizona. In Arizona, we are seeing teenagers overdosing on counterfeit pills disguised as oxycodone containing fentanyl. There have been a number of fatal and non-fatal overdoses across Arizona among teens. Teens mistakenly think the pills are safe, not knowing they are counterfeit and contain fentanyl. It's very important to stress to your children from a very young age never to take a pill or prescription drug that hasn't been specifically prescribed to them by a doctor. Taking prescription pills from anyone other than a caregiver or doctor can lead to dependency or even death. And now we'll watch a short video on a parent whose child overdosed.
Ethan was just one of those kids who was so kind. He was 16, funny as could be. He was just going to go hang out with some friends. He wanted to come home early and get a good night's sleep. He said, "Good night, Mom. See you in the morning. Love you." And my response was, "I love you too." I was talking to him, "Son, it's time to get up." And he didn't move. Your head doesn't go that my son has died. Having a hard conversation is so much easier than sitting in my seat.
Learn more at talknowaz.com.
But painkillers aren't the only prescription drugs that kids are misusing. These are some other medications kids are misusing. Rx stimulants such as Adderall and Ritalin, Rx tranquilizers, sedatives such as Xanax or Valium, over-the-counter cough or cold medicine with DXM or such as Robitussin, and sleep medications. The bottom line is that our kids are misusing just about any prescription or over-the-counter drug. Here are the top reasons why teens reported using drugs and alcohol in the past 30 days. 52.9% said they did it to have fun. 40.8% said to get high or feel good. 38.7% said they used substances to deal with the stress from school. 34.1% said to deal with the stress from their parents and family. And 33.3% of youth reported using substances because they were feeling sad or down. What's scary is that 1/3 of our kids were using drugs or drinking because they're stressed. So imagine fast forward these kids about 10 years from now, and how do you think they're going to deal with life stressors? This is why it's so important that we talk with our kids and discuss healthy coping strategies with them. Such coping strategies can include music, sports, games, or writing. So here are some of the reasons why students have stayed away from drugs in the last 30 days. 82.5% said they are not even interested in drugs. 63.1% said their parents would be disappointed. 61.7% said it could harm their body. 53% said it's illegal and they don't want to get arrested. And 42.1% said they did not misuse substances because other adults would be disappointed. So I really want to reiterate that you, adults, in a kid's life have like so much influence over your kids. Another key factor driving prescription misuse is that these medications are easy to get. So let's take a look at that in more detail. In Pima, 1 out of 4 teens report getting prescription drugs from friends. 1 out of 5 kids report getting prescription drugs right out of their home medicine cabinet. And 1 out of 6 said they get them from a family member or relative. When we look at where teens are getting substances, one of the top answers is from friends. And most of us would think that friends mean in-person friends, but the youth our children are hanging around with or doing activities with. But in today's age, there are new friends on your kids' phones. Those friends are the ones on social media sites. One of the first examinations of social media use to buy and access drugs found out that 3 out of 4 of those surveyed said they had used Snapchat to buy drugs. 1 out of 5 used Instagram, and other sites such as WhatsApp and Kik have also cited as using social media sites where substances were purchased. These sites provide an easily accessible platform that quickly connects buyers and drug suppliers. There is a wide range of substances available to purchase. Several study participants claimed that accessibility to a wide variety of substances was one of the best features of the apps, and that they wouldn't be able to buy certain drugs any other way. The study also suggests that for some buyers, the visual nature of apps and the ability to be able to see photos and videos of the drugs provided some assurance that the seller was legitimate and that the substances were safe. This, however, cannot be determined just by looking at a drug, especially something like pills. We just talked about the counterfeits that look exactly like the real prescription drug, but can be very dangerous and even deadly. In addition to convenience, there is a shared belief among those using apps to buy drugs that the security features associated with apps, such as encrypted messaging and disappearing content, could protect them and allow them to remain anonymous. However, these features don't always equate to security and total anonymity with many third-party apps, gathering data from social media notification systems. It's extremely important for you to know which social media sites your child is accessing, how they are using the apps, and examining what they are posting and who they are interacting with. Drinking today carries risks that did not exist or were less prevalent in years past. Many children report cocktailing, which means drinking alcohol in addition to using the prescription drugs. This truly can be a recipe for death. The reason this is important is because of the deadly interaction that can occur when these two are used together. Drinking and using a prescription drug can cause the respiratory system to shut down, meaning the child stops breathing and can die. Another key factor driving misuse of prescription drugs is the notion that misusing medicine is not as dangerous as street drugs, like heroin or cocaine. So to dive deeper into that, what shapes teens' perceptions of safety? Teens usually see it as being sanitized, which means it's created in a medical laboratory for healing purposes, sanctioned, accepted by society as positive because they're usually given by a doctor or you need a prescription for them. And they view them as more safe because it's certified by the FDA. One thing we know for sure is that teens who learn about the risk of drugs from their parents are significantly less likely to use drugs. But unfortunately, most parents in Arizona aren't having those conversations with their kids. 52% of teens say their parents have never talked with them about ways to turn down or avoid drugs. So that's why it's so important to talk to your kids. One way to help your child avoid prescription drug misuse is to build resiliency and their ability to say no when approached to try prescription drugs. Think about which one of these steps best fits your child's personality. These are good strategies to discuss with your kids about ways to say no or avoid being pressured into using prescription drugs. In addition, here are some concrete examples of how you can help your child if they find themselves in a situation where someone is offering them prescription drugs, alcohol, or any other drugs. You can tell them to call home and that you will come and get them rather than getting a ride home with someone who has been drinking or taking pills. So this is known as a rescue plan. So you can review how your kids are going to say no if they ever face with pressure from their friends to do something that they know is wrong or that they're uncomfortable with. So there is a parent toolkit that is designed to prepare for your discussions with your child about drugs and alcohol. There's a section specifically on prescription drugs. There's also a section that breaks out age-appropriate information beginning in preschool and ending with your college student. You can get copies of the booklet by going to the AZHIDTA website. That's on the slide. It is important to be able to identify if your child is misusing prescription drugs. So here are 5 ways to watch for that can indicate that your child may be using prescription drugs. You notice pills are missing from your medicine cabinet. Your child comes home and you notice their speech is slurred or they're stumbling, but you can't smell alcohol in their breath. Deteriorating relationships with family, less openness and honesty, abrupt changes in friends or groups and behavior. It is common to see these behaviors as typical for a teenager, and it may have nothing to do with drug use, but if it's like a sudden change or the occurrence of several changes at once, it should alert you to the possibility of a problem. So if you think you get to the point that you think your child is having a problem, you have to take action. The sooner you act, the better the outcome. Step 1 is to focus. You need to know that you can do this. Don't panic, but remember you have to act right away. Next, start talking. Let your child know you are concerned. Communicate your disapproval. You will need to set limits, rules, and consequences, even if they haven't been in place before you have stepped in. Next, if you have been monitoring, you'll need to double your efforts. If you haven't, you need to start. This may also go beyond your previous efforts. You may need to snoop around and go into the rooms or cars. And it may be uncomfortable to do this, but remember that you are doing it because you love them. Finally, get outside or professional help. You don't have to do this alone. This is a health issue. If your kid had a cough that wasn't going away, you wouldn't wait and try to figure it out for yourself. You'd take them to the doctor. Substance misuse is no different. Talk to a doctor, a teacher, a substance misuse counselor, or a parent who has been through this. They'll all be willing to help you. There are special vulnerabilities that contain a certain risk that when present in a person's life, make them statistically more vulnerable to drug or alcohol use. If your child is vulnerable, the one thing you should not do is resign yourself to the likelihood that they will end up using. Vulnerabilities don't predict behavior. They just change the levels of risk. It means you should be extra vigilant to monitor, protect, and guide your child through their teenage years. So some of these vulnerabilities include family history. the predisposition to drug or alcohol problems. When it comes to a family history of substance misuse, there's no need for a blame game. The simple fact is that your child is at greater risk to develop a problem. A family history of substance misuse can also provide a powerful, teachable moment when you talk with your kids about drugs. If they have close friends who use drugs or alcohol, you should be aware. If this is the case, the likelihood that your child will use drugs and alcohol roughly doubles. Early first use increases the chances that a kid will develop problems later on. A kid who starts smoking pot at age 14 or younger is more than twice as likely to have a drug or alcohol problem as an adult than a kid who starts using at ages 18 to 20. Teens who undergo a serious period of depression face a sharply increased risk of starting to use drugs and alcohol following that event. The word self-medicate is thrown around a lot, but that is likely what these kids are doing. If they have problems in school or they have learning disabilities, research has also shown that problems in school, both academic and social, place a child at greater risk for substance misuse. Now let's take a look at a video put together highlighting the stories of real parents and their children's experiences with prescription drugs.
As a parent, I think most of you are concerned about all these illegal drugs, the heroin, the marijuana, the meth, but you need to understand that the legal drugs are just as dangerous.
They're getting it from your neighbors, your friends. It's not hard at all.
If people are taking prescription drugs for non-medical purposes, they are not taking medicine. They're doing drugs.
It's easy to start, and it's painful to stop.
Prescription drugs are a prescription for a reason. If you take too many of a prescription narcotic, you die.
Chelsea was very well liked by her friends and by her teachers.
Ronnie was going down to Tennessee State to be the next player to come out of Tennessee State.
Joey was extremely popular, just surrounded by friends.
Mark was an athletic, fit-looking kid.
Aaron enjoyed talking and debating with any and all people.
The prescription pain pill problem is a huge epidemic.
This is an epidemic.
This is an epidemic that is infiltrated our young people.
We never had a conversation with Joey about prescription drugs because we truly had no idea that there was any kind of recreational use going on.
How many guys know it's not using
The first time I started doing painkillers was when I was 17.
I would steal pills from my friend's mom. Her stepmom had script for Vicodin. That was like heaven. I went in her room and stole Vicodin every day.
He would ask to use the bathroom in other people's homes, and he'd go in there and go in their medicine cabinets and steal prescription drugs.
These medications are available everywhere in every socioeconomic environment.
Ronnie was the starting halfback, one of our best players. He got several scholarship offers.
Ronnie was very popular in the neighborhood.
Ronnie was a neat freak, clean freak, always had his hair braided. When he got into the pill use, his mood changed. He changed, like, was that Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde?
Ronnie's appearance really deteriorated, and it was really unlike him.
I said, "Are you doing drugs?" And my son looked at me with these eyes of, "How could you even think of that, Mom?"
I was walking up to football practice. My coach was walking towards me. He just had this crazy look on his face. He goes, "You think they might have found your brother?" And I was like, to me, I was like goofing. I was like, I didn't know he went missing. So I was like making him like goofing off. And he was like, "No, Justin, seriously, they might have found his body." And I was like, "Wait a minute." I was like, "Whoa, what?" He's like, "Yeah, they discovered a body in an apartment in Telford."
I never thought my son would take prescription drugs without a prescription.
Parents often trip themselves up by asking a simple question: "Are you using drugs?" No. One has to be able to say, "I'm seeing some signs here that concern me."
He was a little bit more argumentative. We thought that was maybe hormones.
The person has what we call pinpoint pupils. Literally, the pupils looked like a pinpoint.
She slept odd hours.
We didn't know why he was sleeping so late.
If I wasn't able to get high, then I didn't want to get out of bed because, you know, the physical withdrawals.
We were missing tinfoil from the kitchen, missing spoons.
We'd find the pens that were cut in half.
Straws.
There were a lot of charges coming on the credit cards.
We thought that there was somebody stealing money out of her account.
That's probably a pretty good clue there's something going on. Joey was pretty upset with his roommates. They were spending all their money on medication. Had I known that the medications that they were taking were so dangerous, I would have told them, you're not even going back to that place.
If you feel something's going on, you gotta investigate.
I thought it was just a phase. We partied when we were in high school, and it's just sort of a phase you go through as you experience life, and you grow out of it. And I thought he was on that track.
Joey had been found and he was unconscious. He had all these medications that he had just received from this doctor. More than likely, he crushed and snorted it. We're just being completely hit blindly by, you know, a situation we had absolutely no understanding of and no notice of. And in the meantime, my husband's in the house. I'm out front in the front of the house, just, you know, wondering what we're dealing with here. And so finally, Joe just came out and said, he's gone.
I was downstairs getting ready for work, and Cookie told me she couldn't get Mark up. Mark was powerful and had the nickname in some circles of Tank. I reminded her that what she had to do was get a cup of water and splash him with it and stay out of his way. And she told me it was different. We found a clear plastic bag of loose pills. I'm not sure if he even thought he was doing drugs, and I know that sounds crazy, but it's not like it was heroin or cocaine. We followed the ambulance to the hospital. A few minutes later, someone came in and told us that Mark was dead. We never thought that was a possibility.
I had no idea that kids were abusing medicine.
I came home one night, saw the basement light on, and went up to the window, and my son was crushing and snorting the pills.
We would find pills in the shoes, in the jackets that are hanging in the closet, in the pockets.
I found some pills hidden under his cushion.
They were in his socks. I never checked my kid's socks.
He took the light switch plate off and put them in there.
Look everywhere. Is it an invasion? No. You're doing the right thing as a parent.
I would question Chelsea, and she would always assure me that everything is fine and nothing's wrong.
Kids don't want to get in trouble, so they're going to tell you exactly what you want to hear.
There was always something down deep inside that said to me, something's wrong. You doubt yourself because you wonder if you're making a bigger deal out of something.
You know, maybe deep down my parents knew that I was high.
You can't always believe your child. Their lies get bigger when they're trying to hide substance abuse.
I knew her inside and out, and I remember Chelsea as the little girl that she used to be.
I looked at him and I only saw the most beautiful son in the world.
It was very difficult to think that she would be lying to me, which she was. She was out using and abusing prescription drugs.
Long-acting agents like OxyContin are meant to be delivered in the body over a period of hours, if not a day. If they're chewed, crushed, and snorted, you get the entire dose at one blast, and if the body's not ready to accommodate that, you will stop breathing.
We needed to call the police. But what are the neighbors going to think?
Put all of that aside and focus on what's important, as difficult as it may be.
Families can't get too caught up in the idea that, oh, there may be an arrest charge of my son or daughter, they could be in jail, they could be in the morgue.
The law saved my life. If my mom hadn't called the cops on me, I don't know where I would be right now.
It was the most difficult thing to do, to call the police on your own child. It was horrible. I have gone from putting importance on things like what college are you going to get into to just celebrating the fact that she's alive today. She's doing very well. She's clean and sober. She's productive. She's sweet. and I have her back, and I'm thankful. And it's wonderful.
Aaron had spent the night at a friend's, and they found him blue and non-responsive. They took him to a local hospital.
He was using Vicodin, which we found out through his toxicology, what was in his blood system.
I witnessed him have 2 heart attacks in ICU. He had staph, he had pneumonia, he went through seizures. The doctor was explaining to us that he was going to die. We held his hands on each side, and we started crying, and he just laid there.
People use the medications in an abusive way, not knowing what the full consequences are, and somebody ends up here.
Within 24 hours, Aaron had opened his eyes.
Parents are the first line of defense in terms of prescription drug abuse.
You gotta sit your kids down. You just gotta tell them about the severity of the problem.
There's a number of steps that you can take.
Educate your child and yourself very early.
Anybody who feels that this can't happen to my child,
It could happen to your kid.
make sure that you don't have excess pills in your home.
Keep your medication locked up because you're never gonna notice if something's gone.
What my mom does is she has these take-home pee tests that I gotta take. I want to keep my mom proud of me, and I don't want to let her down.
You need to have the conversation with them about drug and substance abuse, and you need to include prescription drugs and guide them so they're able to get through their high school years and into college and through their college years drug-free.
Have this conversation before it's too late to have this conversation.
So I want us to take some time to reflect on what we just saw, some things to consider or think about, or what are your immediate responses? What do you think or feel about what you just saw? What was the most surprising thing that you learned about medicine misuse from the video? Some of the key points are many teens say they've used, most kids get the drugs at home or from friends, and too many parents aren't talking to their kids about prescription drug misuse. And lastly, what do you think these families wish they could have done differently? I really want to stress the importance of locking up medication and limiting access to prescription drugs. This is why it's so important to talk with your kids about medicine misuse. So, what can you, as parents or guardians, do to prevent prescription drug misuse? First, learn about medications kids are misusing. Next, establish some family rules or family policy around prescription drug use. Let your children know the medication shouldn't be shared, that they are prescribed for one person for a specific medical reason. Let them know they shouldn't take any prescription medicine unless their name is on the bottle. Also, if your child does take medication, let them know they should only take it as prescribed. You may even want to have your child read the directions and talk about the importance of following the instructions on medication. In addition, follow the warning signs. If the warning label says you shouldn't drive while using the medication, make sure that you or your child are not driving. Talk to your kids about these risks. When kids learn about these risks from you, their parents, or a caring adult, it does make a difference. You want to be especially aware if your child has oral surgery or a sports injury and is prescribed pain medication. It's important to have a serious discussion with your child about the risk of using any medicine. Let your child know you can work together to keep them safe and healthy. Next, safeguard medications. If there is a substance that can be misused in your home, you need to keep it in a place where kids can't access it easily. Even if you think your kids would never misuse them, you need to think about all the kids who come into your home. You also want to talk with your friends and parents of your kids' friends and ask them to do the same. Also, keep track of your medications. If you find you are having to refill your prescriptions more frequently than expected, that is something to be concerned about. Also, don't leave medications in the open, such as on the kitchen counter, a nightstand, or in your car. You want to treat your medications just like when you baby-proof the cabinet under your sink when you had small children. You want them secure. Ideas for securing medication include buying a lockbox and putting medications in a location only you know about. Dispose of medications properly. Arizona now has a number of permanent prescription drug boxes. Let's take a look at what you can turn in at the permanent prescription drug boxes. You can turn in expired or unused pills, over-the-counter medicines, samples, pet medications, and vitamins and supplements. The only thing you shouldn't be putting in these containers are needles, creams, or liquids. If you can't wait for a take-back program, or if you don't have a permanent Rx drug drop box near you, you can follow these steps. Mix the medicine with an undesirable substance, such as used ground coffee or kitty litter. Put the mixture into an empty can or bag and discard. Do not flush medicine down the drain or toilet. We don't want those meds mixing into our water supply. The next two slides provide information on treatment resources. Feel free to screenshot these slides or pause so you can write down any information. If you're worried about a loved one overdosing on opioids, it's important to have naloxone or Narcan in your home. Naloxone is a non-addictive, life-saving medication that can reverse the effects of an opioid overdose when administered in time. Narcan and naloxone are the same medication. Naloxone is intramuscular and is injected, while Narcan is a nasal spray. Both are equally efficient. Those who would like to get Narcan or naloxone can access the medication through the local health department, or you can go to your local pharmacy and get it with no prescription. Medical providers can also provide information on where to access naloxone or Narcan, and the most important thing is to not be afraid to ask for it. In Pima County, anyone can get Narcan, the Narcan nasal spray from any of the Pima County public libraries. You can also request free naloxone at naloxoneaz.com. An important thing to remember is that these are not a substitute for emergency medical care. When administering naloxone, always be sure to call 911 right away, even if the person wakes up. Keep the patient under close watch. If breathing does not return to normal or if breathing difficulty resumes after 2 to 3 minutes, give an additional dose of Narcan. Again, this medication is safe, so you can use multiple doses. I have heard from the Tucson Police Department that the average dose administered on a person is 4 to 6. Now I'm going to play a video that goes over the Good Samaritan law.
I'm Deborah Black. I'm here to ask for your help to save lives during this opioid crisis. Individuals who have overdosed are being left to die because those around them are afraid to call for help. Arizona's Good Samaritan law protects those who call 911 when they are present during an overdose. On behalf of law enforcement, please make that emergency call. You will not be arrested. You plus naloxone are a combination that will save lives in Arizona.
Finally, here's a safety checklist for you. Remember to please talk with your children in your life about prescription drug misuse and ask your family and friends to do the same. Secure your medications in your home so that family members, friends, and neighbors don't have access to them. Do not share medications. Get rid of unused or expired medications in your home and spread the word. Please help us get the word out to other parents and share the information you learned today to those in your life. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the training. And please take a few minutes to take a quick survey for us. The survey results are anonymous and help us stay funded to continue providing these trainings for free. Again, thank you so much for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.